shall we get to it?
Let's do it.
Cool. I thought like a cool intro would be to just briefly say like how you and I know each other, how we met and stuff. My memory of it is just that I kept coming out to hotel book shows, and we used to talk every time pretty much after the set. 'Cause there was one show like way back in the day where you guys were fairly new. So I think I was one of like, I want to say like 10 people at the show. So you and I got to like hang out a little bit and talk, which was fun. And then I was super stoked because I was like 16, and then I went to another hotel book show and I was like, hey man. And you were like, hey Luke. And I was like, holy crap, he remembers me. That's like super, super cool. I was super excited about it. So yeah, that was a long time ago, but that was just what I remember. And then, obviously then I came out to that show, I think last year, the I Prevail tour with Danny. Because I know Danny pretty well, and we got to hang out a little more, and got to have our conversation and stuff. So yeah,
that sounds exactly how I remember it. I don't remember. I try to pretend Danny wasn't there. No, I'm just kidding. I love Danny. Dude, Danny was.
Yeah, I love Danny too.
I try to rope him into doing every tour, but his band is always so busy that it doesn't work out. But yeah, dude, I the beauty of hotel books having a slow growth is that the people I met at the beginning. I'm totally yawning. Just so people know, it's because I just woke up. It's not because I'm bored or tired. It's because I just woke up. But the reason I feel blessed that we kind of had a slow growth, and we still have a slow growth, is because people that I met in like 2012, 2013, I still remember. Because, like you said, when I met them, there was only 10 names to remember,
Right.
And then with the I Prevail tour, where there's like 700 kids at the show, I'll always remember those first 10 because when I met them, those were the 10 most important people in my life. You know what I mean? Like, those were the only 10 people buying CDs from me, so they were the most vital people in my life. And that's not something you just forget. You don't just like forget who those people are.
Totally, man. I get that. Yeah.
And there's go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like I relate to that fully. Like I still basically remember every person that was at my band's first show. Like just have a vivid memory of everyone and remember everybody's name because like exactly what you're saying. It's just like super, super important. And in that moment, they're like the most important people in your life.
Yeah, dude. And like most musicians, or at least the ones that I think survive, are dreamers. Like they're people who are like, I really want to go far with this. I really want to share my music with everyone. And those are the types of people where every single compliment they remember, and every single person who shakes their hand, they at least, I'm not good with names as much. The only reason I remembered your name was because we talked like for a long time, and we talked about real issues, not just like, hey, so what's your favorite city to play? Which I love those conversations, but obviously they're not as memorable, just because I have that conversation 1,000 times every tour. But with you and I, we've always had these conversations that are like, there's no chit chat, it's just, we just launch immediately into a very serious topic. And those are the conversations I remember because they're more enlightening to me.
Yeah, I like totally.
I like conversations where it's like two people, I like talking to younger fans. I love it, dude. But it is exhausting when I've talked to like 12 fans who are kind of more just asking me for advice rather than asking me, you know what I mean? I have no authority over I have no advice to give people. So whenever I'm talking to like the younger fans, they're like, so I got dumped. What do I do? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm a singer, But so whenever somebody comes up to me and goes, let's have a conversation about something we're both going through, like without an expectation of me being an expert on the subject, it's always refreshing. Because I'm not an expert on the subject, dude.
Well, yeah, so, like some of the coolest feedback I ever got after a show was I basically gave like a testimony about, you know, my depression and stuff. And I said in the, you know, whatever on stage, I said, you know, this morning I woke up and it was like the worst I felt in a long time. And I wasn't even going to get up to play this show. And like I did. And, you know, whatever. And somebody came up to me and like, I just remember this feedback so clearly. They were like, yeah, it was so cool. Like every testimony you ever hear is pretty much, oh, I went through this 6 months ago. I went through this 2 years ago. But you never hear people with a platform saying, I'm going through this right now. And I guess that just like really stuck with this person, that, you know, someone would be willing to openly say, hey, like I have an issue now that I'm trying to deal with.
Yeah.
So,
Well, dude, you know, I could talk about this all day. Hold on, give me one quick second. I'm going to see if it's, oh, no, I got this. I was going to see if I can get out of my van for a second. There's too much wind. Yeah, dude, I mean, this is something I'm very passionate about, but like, I think the reason I think we're straying so far away from that is because, we are being taught that there's no context anymore. And the fear that I always have is like, I'm not very famous, so I don't necessarily have to deal with this, but I have stand-up comedian friends and actor friends who have to deal with this on a daily basis, where they could do an interview. Here's a good example. I have a friend who did an interview where he talked about pornography, and he said that pornography is still an issue in his life. And then the next day, some website is like, so-and-so is a porn addict.
yeah.
You know, and the
Yep.
media.
You get attacked right away.
Yeah, and then social media goes, all the Twitter kids go, I looked up to you. Like, you why did he ever? And it's like, he was being vulnerable, and his goal was to say, he wasn't saying he's still looking at porn every day. What he was saying was, the temptation is still a struggle, and he's accepted the struggle, and he's trying to overcome it. And then he gets painted as an enemy of God or whatever, because he's a Christian, you know, he's in the Christian world. And I was just like,
Yeah.
that sucks, dude. He was doing a good thing that could have really helped people. And now he's being painted as this villain because of his vulnerability. And once artists are afraid to be honest, they are no longer artists. They are simply entertainers. And that is.
Well, you talk about that on your new record a lot.
Yeah, that's what the new record's about. The new record is about how my struggle with depression drove me to a disingenuous state in life where I couldn't be honest about anything.
Yeah. Going back one step, I'm just curious. Your comedian friend who got like kind of demonized. You said he's in the Christian world. Was the website that started attacking him also a Christian website?
Yeah, it was, dude. It was worse than that. They didn't even do it on their website. They sent an email to their mailing list.
Oh man, dude.
So it went straight into people's inboxes. And dude,
so I mean, nobody. First of all, like, I just like I don't. First of all, I don't think that someone saying that they have an issue, a temptation, is something that they necessarily like need grace for. They're just being vulnerable. But if you do believe that, then where is the grace in sending out like emails to destroy someone's life? Like, it's not like the guy said like, hey, like go to redtube.com. Like, you know what I mean? Like the dude was saying he has a problem.
Yeah, if he was going like, I've accepted that I love porn and I'm just going to keep watching porn, then it'd be like, watch, dude, somebody's going to take that audio clip of me saying that and it's going to ruin my life. But, yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like everybody's walking on eggshells. I think the reason Hotel Books is still around is because we don't walk on eggshells and people appreciate that. I hope that, I mean, that's the compliment that I get the most. I hate to like point out one of my strengths because that's just egotistical, but my ego's through the roof. I've written 4 albums about myself, you know, but I think that like, especially with depression, which is really the topic that is most, I think, pertinent in my mind and yours, because as you and I are friends outside of just this interview, obviously, and like with your
Yeah.
band writing a whole record, I don't want to even say record, but writing a expression, a collection of music about depression. And then my band, we have 2 records about that. We have Everything We Could Have Done Differently and I'm Almost Happy Here. We have 2 records about depression. And then Equivalency is almost like that's my version of saying depression is not situational. Sometimes there's no control over why you are depressed. Like you were saying, some days you just wake up and that's just how you feel and it's not your fault. And that's what my message has always been. And then Equivalency is the first record where I said, but I should be taking care of myself a little better.
Yeah.
And like depression is not in the fault of the victim, but because I know how easily I can get depressed, it's my job to really step it up and make sure my soul is healthy.
Absolutely. One of the things that I love about when you're saying the different Hotel Books records is they're all coming from a different point, but I think it's cool that you weren't pigeonholed into this one topic. For example, you said you wrote 2 records about depression, but you didn't have to keep writing about it. You were able to write records that were a reflection of what was kind of going on in your life currently,
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of bands that are stuck only being able to talk about this one topic or this one thing because that's, I don't want to say gimmick because it's not necessarily a gimmick. It's just that's what their band stands for. And it's not what your band stands for isn't necessarily a reflection of what you, as a lyricist are actually going through.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's my band. If somebody said, "What's your band about?" I would say it's me journaling about the different ways that love plays out in my life. That's it. That's simple.
And yeah, and if someone asked me, go ahead.
Yeah. Let me shift. I was going to say, it's so funny that you said that because I was going to say, let me shift the spotlight onto your band because your new song I had not even heard until yesterday because I'm the worst person in the world with keeping up with new music. Unless Kendrick Lamar puts out a new album, I don't hear about new music, and so.
We're not a day to remember, so we're not.
Yeah.
We don't have a huge following, but.
But with your.
Go ahead.
With your band, the thing that you were explaining to me, just so I could put it in a outsider's terms, is you're doing each letter of the alphabet. So each song, there's song A, song B, song C, and song A has been released. And it's basically the best way that I kind of view this. It's almost like a podcast where each song is this month's version of what you're going through. You know what I mean? It's almost like a TV show.
Yeah.
So each episode, it's like a reality TV show. This is what's going on in my mind this time. And it's like a live feed. And to me, that's beautiful. I wish I could do something like that, but I don't have creativity in that sort of way. I would beat myself up over every little word if I was putting stuff out that rapidly. But I 100% commend you for that because that's something where kids are going to go, oh, so this is what it feels like in real time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, dude. So that's a cool way to look at it, the podcast thing. We're not doing stuff every month yet, just because we just don't have the time. And also, what's kind of cool is that we're doing letters, but we're also doing a new record that has nothing to do with letters. So we're kind of having this dual identity as a band, but yeah, dude, so A is the song that you heard, that's called Take Me, and that's out with a music video, and that's just about the feeling of hopelessness. The line that always sticks out to me in that song is existence has become the persistence of a pulse. And so that was just my build up to to introduce this idea that I'm sad because, quite frankly, man, I was, as far as just in my local scene, and I hope this doesn't sound ego-y at all, because it's really not supposed to be.
No.
I'm just giving my perspective. Like in my local scene, I was I feel like I've been looked up to, which is cool, and a lot of people have come to me. But because I've presented myself as such like a loving and happy person, it became this routine where nobody ever asked like, "Hey, dude, how are you feeling?" And
dude.
this was You must know that. Yeah, I'm sure you feel that. And so this was my way to just introduce that concept to people, that like, hey, the guy who like runs around with a microphone and like, you know, jumps off things and then gives everybody a hug, like he gets really sad too.
Dude, that's brilliant. Cause dude, it's almost like, when you're a little kid and you see your teacher outside of, like, you go to like Target and you see your teacher there and you realize like, oh, my teacher doesn't live at school.
Yeah. They're like a real person too.
My teacher is a real human being. And that, cause like, I don't know if you had that moment, but I had that moment as a little kid in like second grade where I'm like, I went to a restaurant and my teacher was there and I was like, oh, that's right. And that, I think it's the same way with like, dude, if there's one thing, this is a little off subject, but I promise to make a point. I think it's funny how people think like, oh, we are in bands, so we are privileged, and I hate to use the word privileged because that word is such a buzzword right now, but like, they're like, oh, you're in a band, so you're living the dream, so therefore, your life is good. Where you go, well, I play in a band, but I also have a day job, and I also have, relationship problems, and I also, struggle to see eye to eye with my parents on a lot, you know what I mean? I'm 24. I'm not just in a band, disconnected from reality, living in a mansion. I still have all the struggle of a 24-year-old. Plus, I have to pay van insurance, and I have to pay van insurance, and I have to write records, and I have to deal with public scrutiny. The plus side of it is I get to get on stage every night and share my heart, which is something I will always be grateful for. But it's so easy to go like, oh, that guy gets on stage. That guy's living his dream. He's happy. He's good. And then you realize like. Then you look at, dude, this is so buzzy. I hate that I'm even bringing this up, but it's so close to my heart that I feel like I'm cheating you to not bring it up. But you look at like Chester Bennington.
Yep.
And you go,
absolutely, man.
I don't know why he checked out, and I'm not going to pretend like I know. But what I do know is his childhood was awful from what he has said in interviews. And he has multiple times talked about how his childhood was hard to shake. And you look at that and you go, okay, money, fame, living the dream, none of that changes the fact that people hurt.
No, not at all, man. Like, I mean, in some ways, when you get to a point like Chester Bennington, dude, like it gets harder. Like living the dream comes with like so much sacrifice when you're at that kind of level. Like the constant public scrutiny and the constant criticism. And like, I'm sure that you saw, before he passed, like how mean people were about the new Linkin Park record. Just like how horrible people are to like this dude who just, I don't know, wanted to write songs about stuff, And so
the complaint about that record was, oh, it's just Chester. It doesn't even sound like Linkin Park. It's just Chester. But where Chester was at in life, he wanted to write a record that reflected him and him only. And like, that was the right thing for Linkin Park to do, because Linkin Park is a 3-dimensional band. And like, dude, you listen to Living Things and you go, okay, this is a radio pop record. Then you listen to The Hunting Party and you go, this is basically a metal record. And like, every step of the way you realize like, oh, this band is one of the last honest bands on the radio who writes music that reflects who they are as people. Like, dude.
Well, yeah, like you and I were talking about earlier, like getting pigeonholed into like only having your band be able to like talk about or do one thing, which is like what we both tried to avoid.
When One More Light came out, people like sellouts. They're just trying to be a radio band. But it's like, dude, if they were sellouts, go listen to their album before that, The Hunting Party. It's a metal record. They're not sellouts at all, dude. If they were trying to be the biggest band in the world, they wouldn't write a metal record. They would, you know what I mean? They wouldn't have gone from Living Things, which was a brilliant, brilliant pop record, and then all like New Divide and all the Transformer songs that were just brilliant radio songs to metal because they're sellouts. They're doing it because they want each record to be its own thing. And then to scrutinize somebody publicly for that. Dude, I'm not Buddhist. I'm Christian. But I love some things in Buddhism. A lot of my family's Buddhist. The Chinese side of my family's Buddhist. And I can't remember what monk it was that they asked him, what is the essence of Buddhism? And he said the essence of Buddhism is impermanence, meaning like draw a picture even though it's not going to go write a song even if nobody's going to hear it. Go out and go do something that's not permanent. And if there's one, and impermanence can lead to Zen. It can lead to peace of mind because you can go, I'm doing stuff. And when you're a celebrity like Chester Bennington, everything you do is permanent because you are constantly being photographed and videotaped and audio recorded, and you lose the impermanence of life. And I think a lot of depression, to go back to that, and I think from the people I've met and talked to, a lot of depression and suicide comes from the fact that, like, we are losing impermanence, dude. Young children are going viral overnight, and it's offensive and it's disgusting. Rebecca Black is the best example of, like, this young girl, for her parents paid for her to make this music video, and then she gets death threats and people telling her they want to kill her because she ruined music. Dude, that is when I was a kid and I looked at I'm an Asian American, believe it or not. When I was a kid, I looked super Asian, and I got made fun of in a town of no Asians. And my first hero was Mike Shinoda, because the rapper of Linkin Park, because he was the first dude who looked Asian who was just awesome. Like, nobody in 2003 would argue that Mike Shinoda is the coolest dude in the world. And so that became my hero, because I said, oh, it's cool to be Asian. And to me, it was like, if I could be Mike Shinoda someday and perform for people, that'd be brilliant. I would be so happy. But nowadays, it's like people don't have heroes anymore because they're all trying to be famous. Like, it used to be that celebrities were gods and we would look up at them and then we were all normal people. And I know that there's a lot of unhealthy things in that alone, but now it's like, hey, are you a normal person who wants to be famous? Start making memes. Start making YouTube videos. You know what I mean? Like, start making vines. I don't know what's popular now. Start putting jokes on Twitter, or start calling people out in your local scene for things that they may or may not have done. And I think that, like, we are losing impermanence. Dude, like, when you see, I was at a show. I was at a show and I was watching these three boys just take selfies on Snapchat, and they look. When you see somebody who just looks miserable and then they smile into a camera and then find the perfect filter and edit the photo, and so they look like they're having tons of fun, and in the second they put the phone down, they're sad again. Yes, that's in any other timeline, that would be considered sociopathic, dude.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I've never thought of it that way, but that definitely, like, makes a point. I mean. I feel like that's exactly, like, the thing that you and I talked in that McDonald's at one time, like, specifically about like trying to, end the stigma that, like, you have to be happy all the time. Yeah. And, obviously, like that conversation, that's a super paraphrased version, because that conversation was like 25 minutes, but, like, I don't know, dude, like that, I feel like that's what Hotel Books has kind of battled a little bit, and that, like, I want to do with Homestead too, is like, we're both trying to kind of bring this spotlight to mental health and say, like, it's honestly, like, just a human experience to go through awful things like depression or that kind of stuff. Like, I just don't understand why, there's a reason why, those three kids who were taking Snapchat pictures, like, there's a reason why they do that, like, because that's what's acceptable to, like, post and to, like, talk about. Like, it's only okay to do that. But, like, if those three kids, like, posted online, and I'm not saying that online is a place to necessarily post that you're
Yeah,
sad,
yeah.
but if those 3 kids like tried to be open about how they actually feel, you know, they'd probably get met with the same criticism that they dish out to people.
Yeah, well, dude, the emotions are being painted as an enemy, but dude, every emotion deserves to be felt because that's how we put context to the good feelings.
Yeah.
Dude, and like, if you are sad or angry or full of hate, you should not dwell on that, but you should not deny your humanity of that. It is your job as a citizen of the world to allow yourself to hurt, because that's how you learn how to love yourself again. And like, it obviously, if you're hurting, you shouldn't dwell in it or make it a piece of your identity or revel in the trendiness of it. You should definitely fight against it, but you shouldn't deny it of its existence. And I think that like so many kids are taught, if I ignore the hurt, dude, if your house is on fire, ignoring the fire doesn't put the fire out.
Yeah, so being fully transparent, to go through like, you know, what we're trying to promote. I in the past couple months have put myself back into therapy, and part of what my therapist has talked with me about a lot has been like, just because you have a negative feeling, like, you don't have to pretend that's not there. Like, there is a reason that you're, for example, feeling angry. What you need to work on is how to healthily deal with that anger. The issue is not that the anger or the sadness is there. The issue is knowing how to deal with that and how to like best manage it. But I think that in society, people think the opposite way that I used to think. People think like, oh, I shouldn't have anger. I shouldn't have sadness or loneliness, whatever. It's like, no, like, it's okay to have those things. They're just as human as happiness and excitement and, you know, every other positive emotion. It's just, you know, dealing with things. Like, in the same way, like, you can deal with being excited about something in a really unhealthy way if you get obsessed with it. You know, like it's all about the healthy reaction to whatever emotion you're feeling.
Well, do you listen to the band Sorority Noise?
I personally don't, but I really love how much I've seen him talk about like mental health stuff.
They have this song on their record Joy Departed, called Art School Wannabe, I think it's called. I don't know the exact meaning of the song, but what it means to me is it's a song about how like people, especially in the arts, think that there's some sort of merit in having a tortured soul. Like reveling in your depression makes you artsy. And then him saying that's not the role. That is not the role of sadness. Like, that is not the role of sadness. Like, Cam Boucher, the guy who writes for Sorority Noise, I mean, he's a modern day, you know, philosopher. I don't think he would say that about himself because he's very humble, but I would say that about him, that he's just a modern day. I mean, he's a genius, dude. He's a genius. And like, from that song, he's basically saying like, and from what I got from it, I should say, I don't know, I shouldn't put words in his mouth, but what the song means to me is it's okay to be sad, but don't revel in your depression. Don't let it become a calling card for your artistic expression. And if you're, you know, I write music, helps me put context to the sadness, but I don't do that because I think the sadness is good. It's because I want to validate its existence so you can't fix a problem you're not willing to acknowledge is there.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, you have to acknowledge the sadness is there. You have to. You have to face it.
So I agree. I agree with everything that you're saying. Quick side note, it's super funny that you bring up Sorority Noise because yesterday I actually got really mad about something that I saw like on Facebook, which I don't know why the things on Facebook get to me, but this kid like posted a thing on Facebook and was like, he's just like asking, he was like, what do you like? Do you like when people like say stuff, like bands say stuff between sets, or when like bands just go into the next song? And this kid who, you know, I'm not a big fan of anyway, commented on it and like tagged Sorority Noise and was like, yo, Sorority Noise is the perfect example of like a band that talks like way too much. Every single show, the singer talks about his mental health and it's so annoying. And it took like everything in me to like not comment and just be like, are you really like giving someone a hard time right now for being open and advocating like for destigmatizing mental health? So it's just funny that you bring up Sorority Noise, because that's really not like a band that I listen to, but they were like super in my brain yesterday just because I felt so bad for Cam reading that.
Yeah. Well, and this is what people need to realize about music. When somebody books Sorority Noise, they're not booking them for a message, they're booking them for entertainment. Like, Noise gets paid to entertain a crowd for 35 minutes. Sorority Noise's music reflects Cam's journey with mental health. So when I go and see Sorority Noise live, I already know that that's what they're going to talk about, because that's what their music's about. And as a fan, the coolest thing in the world is to hear the singer say, this is what this song is about, and this is where I'm at with it. And then you go, oh my gosh, this guy's a human. And that's why, again, I think, dude, I've met Cam a few times. We've texted. We text on each other's birthdays. You know, we're not super tight, but I just really look up to him because, when I listen to a song about mental health struggles, I love the fact that Cam goes, and you know what? Not only am I going to play this song, I'm going to kill the facade, and I am going to just blatantly tell you about my journey. And then I look at it and I go, that is an entertainer that I respect, because he is an artist first and an entertainer second.
Yeah,
and art is so important right now, and it's disappearing, man. Art is disappearing. It's scary. It's so scary, dude. That, labels are signing trendy bands. But, dude, our scene has gone so commercialized with bands like A Day to Remember, Beam the Horizon, Beartooth. I'm not putting these bands down. I'm a huge, huge fan of Beartooth. But they are so good that they are now on the radio, or my best friends and I Prevail. And now labels are going, oh my gosh, we need to start scooping up metalcore bands, because that's huge now. And that's awesome.
Well, yeah.
It's taking our scene and giving it a platform. The tricky part is keeping the radio commercialization out of our scene. That's the tricky part of saying, like, we need to make sure the facade that Nicki Minaj benefits from doesn't overcome and ruin I Prevail. You know what I mean?
Well, dude, that's why I get so excited. Like, I texted you earlier that and we talked on the phone about it last night, that I was like picking up the new Converge record today. Like, you know what I mean? That's like the perfect example of a band who is like strayed so far away from, that like radio platform, and they're like true artists. Like I don't know if you saw that picture I sent you of that record, dude, but that's like sick. Like, I don't know. That's just super, super cool that a band like that can exist. And you're right, because art is constantly disappearing, and like music is about Spotify streams, rather than about like the art that comes along with making music. So like, I don't know, man. That's interesting. Like,
it's scary, dude. And like I said, I'm by no means putting these bands down, because obviously it's not. The reason Beartooth is on the radio is because Beartooth's an incredible band, and they worked hard and they earned it. But
dude, like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, when I was in 6th grade, A Day to Remember put out the Homestead album, and like that album is the reason that I found what I now know is hardcore. And like would I now, if Homesick came out, would I like it? Probably not. But like at the time, dude, like I found A Day to Remember, and then through A Day to Remember, I found like Comeback Kid and like all of these bands that like really, really changed my life.
Yeah, well, that's like my bandmates. The band that we all really bond over is Skillet.
Yeah,
Skillet's
yeah, dude.
Skillet's like John and I, my guitarist, we always talk about how like Monster by Skillet was like the coolest song in the history of the world when it came out.
Yeah.
And like, to me, like when I went on my journey of like, cause the reason I got super into music was because I needed something to, I was a hyperactive kid that needed something aggressive to put my heart into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was blessed with parents who would take me to see Skillet or POD or whoever, Reliant K, whatever band I wanted to see. And I was super into like Christian rock. So whenever a Christian rock concert came to town, my dad would always take me. So I was blessed in life that my dad would put money aside and put time aside to make sure we could go see Skillet. But for the kids who don't have that, if it wasn't for the commercialization of hardcore, if it wasn't for I Prevail or We Came as Romans or whoever, a lot of kids would never even know this music exists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can never stop complimenting these bands because I'm very good friends with I Prevail. I've toured with them, and a lot of people hate on that band because they think their sound is generic. Their sound's not generic. Their sound is just perfectly crafted. And for kids who are just struggling every day, for kids who are like, I don't know if I'm going to hurt myself tonight, and they just have this aggression inside of them, and they're going home and listening to the radio, I Prevail or Beartooth or Bring Me the Horizon or We Came as Romans or Attila might be the only band on active rock radio that has the aggression where the kid goes, oh, this is a healthy way to let go of this aggression.
Yeah, well, it opens up the door to a community. I mean, hardcore, and I'm using that as a very broad term. You know that there's going to be somebody who comments on this and is like, these idiots saying like Attila and hardcore in the same sentence, like whatever. I don't care. I'm using it as a broad term. Like hardcore is such like a subculture community. Like it's based on making friends with other people. Like I feel like when you get into hardcore, like all of a sudden like 90% of your friends are like from, this underground hardcore movement. And that's like, that I think is equally what those kids need on top of, like you're saying, those bands have the aggression that kids might need to hear. On top of that, like that community might be what that kid needs because they don't like fit in with, I guess I hate to say normal, but you know what I mean? Like a non-hardcore fan.
Well, yeah, dude, because I just picture this kid. I picture like a 13-year-old who is putting holes in his walls because he just has this aggression. And like most kids don't have most normal, you know what I mean? I'm using the term normal, not saying that some people are normal, some people are not, but I'm using the term normal based off of like the standard we were raised in of what a child should look like. A standard that I do not agree with, but one that 100% exists. In the minds of most people, you look at these kids who are full of aggression, putting holes in walls, running away, whatever, dude, or even it's smaller than that. Maybe they're just cyberbullying, and they don't have parents who are like, I'll take you to Hot Topic, or I'll take you to Warped Tour. They don't have parents who can do that because maybe their parents don't even fully understand it. I mean, we've had parents come to hotel book shows who are like angry because we scream, and they just assume we're a satanic band because we scream, and we are, dude, in the world of heaviness, there's nothing heavy about my band. And then you imagine, like, I talked to a girl the other day at a show, and the first show she ever went to with her parents was, I can't remember what band she went to see, but Attila was the headliner. And, the singer of Attila uses some pretty awful words toward women. And I don't know him, and I don't know what his life looks like, and I'm not going to judge him, but it's words that I would never use. And so
I would agree.
So her parents were just like, all right, no more going to shows. And I think that like maybe Attila wasn't a show that her parents. I would like to think from my, she's 19 now. I talked to her for a half hour, and I'd like to think that she was smart enough to say, I get what Fonzilla's doing.
He's using shock value. He's using swag. He's using ego to just entertain a crowd. Because that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's using this swaggy ego to entertain a crowd, and he's an entertainer. That's what he does for a living. But a mom or a dad would go, "This is evil." I get that. I totally get that.
Totally.
But at the end of the day, if that girl went to that Attila concert and then walked away going, "Okay," and this is the truth, because, or at least based off what she told me, she walked away from that Attila concert going, "Oh, so this aggression I have inside of me, there's a place for it artistically. Like, I don't have to." I apologize if this is an intense thing to say, but in her words exactly, she went, "Oh, I don't have to slit my wrists to let this aggression out."
Yeah.
She's like, "I don't have to do that anymore." And I mean, she's 19 now. That was when she was 15. I'm sure she opened up to me. And just so you know, this girl, I'm not speaking outside of, I have permission to share her story. But
Totally.
and I'm not going to use her name or the town she's from, but I do have permission to say what I'm saying. For her, it was just like, she still struggles with self-harm. She still struggles with all those things, but now she at least knows that, like, when those things happen, she can go listen to Comeback Kid or whatever. That's more of the music she's into now, Terror and Rotting Out and stuff. And that's where she can go and revel in the aggression without honoring it as violent.
Well, dude, for me, like, I can relate to that a lot. Like, and I'm sure you can too. Like, I struggled a lot to find an outlet, like, to, place my anger and my sadness and, like, a lot of my self-deprecating tendencies. And, like, I found, for me, like, what I needed to do was write music. Like, it wasn't enough for me to just, like, listen to those songs. Like, I needed to, like, write, like, lyrics about it, or like that kind of thing. And I feel like for me personally, this is obviously not like the tell all solution for everybody who struggles, but, like, for me, the combination of being a vocalist of a band and being in therapy has been like completely life-changing. Like, every person who's close to me in my life notices a difference in who I am and, like, how much more time I spend being happy.
Yeah. Which is like, I mean, for me, this is kind of a weird, vulnerable thing I'm saying, because a lot of people don't understand it. And I've accepted that most people are going to call, for lack of a better term, call BS on me on this. And that's totally fine, because I know who I am. But what really pulled me into a healthy place is comedy.
Cool.
And comedy gave me a place where I could take what I thought was absurd in this world and mock it. And,
absolutely.
And having a place where I could sit in my computer and write jokes and just make fun of the anger and the hatred of this world and just make fun of it set me free from it. It removed the power from it. And I think that hardcore can do the same thing where, dude, again, man, I am not at all condoning the words that Franzilla uses. I really don't like those words. But I know that there's a lot of people who think those words are awesome and hilarious and understand that those are not okay to use, but in the context of Attila, who's like, I'm not putting him down by saying ego, but, like, Attila, who's built around ego, for some people that's liberating, because they can look at the swaggy bullies of their lives and say, these people who use this language and beat me up every day, I can go to Attila show and watch Attila just amplify and exaggerate that lifestyle to just show how absurd it truly is. And in a weird way, that makes Attila social heroes. I know that I'm going to
in a weird way.
I know that there's going to be feminists who say anybody who uses that language should never, ever be honored. I get that. I totally get that. I'm just trying to be empathetic to people who worship those types of bands, and I'm trying to understand them. And I think that, like, the only way that we're going to be better people is if we're willing to ask questions and be wrong and be hypocrites for the sake of just knowing more.
Yeah.
You know, the only way to know everything or to know enough is to be wrong and be open about your wrongness, so that way people go, oh, actually, I think you might be wrong, and then they tell you the right thing, and then you're happier and you're better off, and you're going to be a more vital human in this world.
Absolutely. Cam, I want to ask you. This is the first time that you've spoken publicly since the new Hotel Books album came out.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah. The new record, which a lot of what I would say about it, I've already kind of said here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to give you the chance to really. I'm sure that you're going to have people who love your band who really, really want to hear about it for the first time.
Yeah, it's my favorite Hotel Books record for sure. I wrote it with a lot of great people. Nick Ingram was kind of the genius behind the record in a lot of ways. And
cool.
I was fortunate. Dude, the way that this record was written was almost like Hotel Books karaoke, where Nick Ingram and some other musicians that I love deeply that are all listed in the record would write these songs, and then I would come in and put vocals on them. And the reason I did it that way was, number one, because I suck at writing music, but number two, because I wanted to write a record where there was just this, like when Andrew or John or somebody was working on a song, I didn't want to, or Chase Huglin or whoever, I didn't want to be in the room and be like, hey, Chase, change that riff. I wanted him to do it the way he would do it, and then work off it, because I wanted it to be a record that felt like it was built by a community. And the record, in a lot of ways, kind of what we talked about off mic yesterday, is it's a record about understanding the music industry, understanding the only way to succeed in it, in my humble opinion, because obviously I'm not succeeding in it in a very big way. But I shouldn't say the only way. The way that works for me, the way that I love being in the music industry, is by working with people who aren't playing music because they want to, and are not playing music because they saw Every Time I Die, and now they want to do it. I want to work with people who play music because there is this deep, dark need inside of them to do nothing but play music.
Yeah.
And that's what this record, I hope, reflects. Is, Chase and Andrew from September Stories, Chase Huglin, were there pretty much for 90% of the record. They can vouch that
both label mates of yours, right?
Yes. At the time, they could both 100% vouch that I had completely lost my deep desire to be in Hotel Books. I mean, dude, I was so jaded and angry and bitter. And so I knew that if I wanted to write a successful record, I needed to surround myself with people who would die for music, people who just bleed music. And so I surrounded myself with those people, and they brought the best version of me out of me, and I've never looked back. I feel like I'm a completely new person because of this album, and I feel like I can address people more honestly, more openly, more critically, but also more compassionately, because I surrounded myself with people who just have so much passion toward what they do. I mean, Brendan from Party, or Danny from Conveyor, or the I Prevail guys, because a lot of these songs were written while we're on tour with I Prevail, and Eric, the screamer of I Prevail, dude, that band is blowing up, and there is still not a single show where I Prevail is just not. Every show, they are just ecstatic and grateful. And you would think after playing for 1,000 kids so many times, they would just start being like, really, we're playing for 600 tonight? But dude, that whole tour we did with them, every night Eric had a smile on his face. He'd hang out at the bar in between other bands so kids could come up and meet him. And I watched that happen, and I said, I gotta take this more seriously. I need to stop being jaded and angry, because I'm looking at how much fun everyone else is having, and I want to have that much fun. And that's what the new record's about. It's basically a love letter to passion, and it's a letter to the music industry saying, I'm sorry I abused the music industry. I'm sorry I didn't use you correctly. You were supposed to be a vessel to help me be creative. Instead, I used you as a vessel to help me be famous. And that's what the record's about.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I chased fame. I should have been chasing compassion, because it put me in a deep depression, and I didn't like the person I was, and nobody liked being around me. And then the I Prevail tour changed everything. And then this tour we just did with Social Repose, we toured with this band called The Funeral Portrait, and they were just genuinely the most fun people to be around. And so now I'm at this point in my career where we're launching a brand new record. We're already writing the next record. It's the best material that I've ever seen my bandmates produce, and it's all coming from a place of just like pure joy. I mean, dude, even on the bat, we played a show the other day where we sucked, and the sound was terrible. We couldn't hear ourselves. And we get off stage, and Morgan, our drummer, and then John, our guitarist, both just laugh and go like, well, that sucked. Where a year ago, I would have just been like, screw this is awful, I hate this. Where now I'm at a place where we can just laugh at the failures and then be, and learn from them. And that's what I hope this record conveys, is like, I survived depression because I chose to find joy in the moments where happiness was not an option.
That's awesome, man. The record definitely reflects that.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
And I want to ask you, funny enough, because you brought up the Social Repose thing. I heard like feedback on the Social Repose, on like you doing the Social Repose tour, and I want to just get like your perspective on things, because I think it's really interesting. But like I saw your band do on a show. I think that it was Defeater and Counterparts.
Yeah.
And I saw you guys, with I Prevail. I saw you guys with Gatherers, and like then you're doing a social. Yeah, and I now then you guys did a tour with Social Repose, and not knocking any of those bands. Obviously, like my personal taste would exist more in like the Defeater Counterparts world.
Yeah.
But like,
my Twitter got hacked over that. My fans were so angry that we toured with Social Repose that my Twitter got hacked.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask you about, because I'm 20, so, and I'm into like hardcore and that kind of thing. So like Social Repose would not be for me, but I want to ask you and give you the chance to kind of like say why did you want to do that tour, and what do you think was like the benefit of that? Because I'm sure that there was a benefit, but I have my own theory, like, but why you did it, which my theory was that that's an amazing demographic to have your message reach. But I just wanted to like get your take on that.
Okay, well, I took the tour as a joke. I wanted to hate it.
Did you really?
Dude, I wanted to be able to go home to my friends and be like, can you guys believe I did that? If there's two things I love in this world, it's I love writing about absurdity, and I love absurdity. And what Social Repose does is so absurd. And I wanted to go on that tour and then come home to my friends and family and be like, this guy's a joke. He's a diva. He's a rock star. Every negative.
Hello?
So fast and so hard. I had so much fun on that tour. Dude,
that's cool.
Every day of that tour was an absolute blast. The members of Social Repose, it's Ryan, the tour manager, Dan, the merch guy, Richie, the singer, and Skylar, the drummer. All four of them were genuinely awesome people to tour with. I hope to tour with all four of them in different capacities in the future. The opening band, the Funeral Portrait, are easily like our best friend band now.
Cool.
I never thought I'd fall in love with a band as much as I love Gatherers, because Gatherers are literally the most talented band I've ever met in my life, other than maybe Household. And I just couldn't
I love
believe
Household.
I couldn't believe the hospitality of Richie's fans. I could not believe how incredibly honest and impressionable and sweet his fans are. Dude, it was insane, bro. Like, I knew, this is what Chase Hughlin told me. Chase Hughlin toured a social propose and had a fun time, but Chase said his fans will be 12-year-olds and their parents. My band's an anti-suicide band, so it's very important to me that we get to play for young kids because I want to help kids going through, like, you know, like the puberty era of depression. And I want moms and dads to know that there are bands with a message. So we took the tour knowing that it would be this audience we love, and I'm not the biggest fan. If you listen to Equivalency or what record labels have to say about me, I'm not the most liked person in the music industry. I don't respect the music industry as much as most bands do. And Richie is a YouTuber, so he operates completely outside of the music industry, and that was so attractive to me. And he writes original music. Most YouTubers just do covers. He did 2 covers, and the rest of his set was original music. So it wasn't like I was touring with a parody act. I mean, he really does put his heart and soul in his music.
And do you think that you were well received on the tour?
Dude, we gained more fans from that tour than I Prevail's tour, and that was 1,000 kids a night on some of those shows. Dude, Richie's
And what was the Social Repose tour? Like, how many kids a night?
100 to 200. It was small, dude. It was a weird time to be on the road. We were competing with some incredible tours. One night we were like up against Motionless in White, you know. But dude, and then also the goth culture is so interesting to me. And I don't want to be one of those guys who's like, I think goths are cool, so I'm going to go watch YouTube videos. I'm the type of guy who's like, I think goths are cool, so I want to spend time with them. Like, I want to actually like, make eye contact with them. And when I learn about goths, I want there to be body language and empathy because I want to be informed in a way where I can learn to love and respect them. And Richie's fans are a lot of goth kids, and I was granted that experience, and it was awesome. And it's going to 100% inform what I do next with my music because I met this new subculture that just was so inspiring, dude. Just people who literally come to a show just to be a part of something bigger than themselves. It's like a religion that revolves around artistic expression. Like, name something cooler than that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But like,
that's cool,
because he wears that feather headdress that a lot of people view as social. What's it called? Cultural appropriation.
Cultural appropriation. Yep.
Yeah, that's why my Twitter got hacked. I was getting death threats for doing that tour. I got 4 death threats. I got a video of a girl burning my vinyls in her fire. The most offensive thing here, some dumb hipsters can be like, the plural vinyl is vinyl. I don't care. But like, I got death threats. My Twitter got hacked. It was a mess, dude, because I chose to tour them. Number one, maybe it's cultural appropriation. I don't have any authority over that. I don't know enough about that to even want to talk about it. But what I will say is, if that's what it is, that was not his intention. His intention was he's a big fan of like early Black Veil Brides, and his character, or whatever you want to call it, his persona, 100% is inspired by that era of music, the Black Veil Brides era. It has nothing to, he didn't reach beyond that in any capacity. He is just paying homage to the musicians and artists that inspired him. I mean, I'm obviously putting words in his mouth, but I hope I'm being respectful of him and respectful. Like, if there's people who say, like, I am Native American, I do not like that he wears a headdress that represents something, that represents a status in my culture that's beautiful to me, or a status that people, let's just, one girl made a very good point to me. She said, he is a white male, and white men were stripping the Native Americans of their status, and those headdresses were a sign of their status. That's what she told me. If that's the case, and she never wants to listen to Social Repose because that offends her, I will stand beside her and defend her right to not have to be exposed to Social Repose, because she is a dynamic human who deserves to be protected from someone who may be doing something that triggers her in a way. But that doesn't make him evil and malicious, in my opinion. And in her opinion, it didn't make her, she even said, it doesn't make him evil, I just don't want to ever have to support him. And I said, that's fine, and I will stand by you and defend your right to not have to support him. Because if he was getting on stage and dressing in a way that if he was dressing like a goth Chinese person in a way that I thought was offensive to my ancestors, it would be hard for me, and I'm not going to pretend like it wouldn't. I'm not going to discredit people just because I have financially benefited from his performance. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be transparent and say I took that tour for a new experience, and I was granted a new experience. And there are aspects to what he does that I wish he didn't do, but I don't think he's malicious, and I want to support him in what he does. And if he grows and changes and decides he's going to shed those elements, I will be proud of him if he does. And if he doesn't, it doesn't make him an evil person. It just makes him a person who
Sure.
maybe needs to meet more people in those realms and let them speak truth to power in a way that maybe will affect him in a positive way. I don't know. But he's a friend of mine, and he always will be.
Good. That's awesome, man. I hope that gives people some perspective on why you took the tour. I thought it was cool, man. I understood why you did it, and I thought it was cool. All right, two more questions for you.
Yeah. And real quick before we move on, real quick, I just want to get this out of the way. And if there are people who can never listen to Hotel Books again because we toured with Social Repose and you don't agree with his costume, I get that. I'm not angry. I took a risk because I wanted to put myself in a situation where I could learn from him and his fan base. And if I cross the
Sure.
line in some people's hearts, that is their expression and their reality, and I do not want to strip them of that because my life is very easy, and my life does come with a lot of blessings, and I want to be transparent about that, and I want to use my platform to be a voice to people who want me to be a voice. But for people, that's why I say this one girl or this one guy, because I only want to speak on behalf of the people who have granted me permission to speak on behalf of themselves. I don't want to be like, this is how Native Americans feel, because I don't know. But I was granted permission to express that one girl's opinions, and I hope I made her proud in the way that I depicted her opinions, But if someone
Sure.
can't take me seriously because I decided to be a part of that, I get that, and I hope you'll come back around, and if you don't, I hope you at least know where my heart's at with all that.
Cool.
But I just wanted to get that out before we change gears.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, that's totally fine. And I think that's cool that you're saying that. All right, so the two last questions. So about a year ago, you and it was probably more than a year ago now, wasn't it? More than a year ago then, you and I sat in a McDonald's and we had a conversation about how the church handles depression within and mental health in general. And our consensus pretty much was that the church was not doing enough to combat mental health. At that time, I was working for a church. I don't believe you were, but I know that now you work for a Christian organization, and I no longer work for a church. So I'm curious to see if your thoughts on how depression is handled, first of all, in general in society, but then also a little more specifically, how depression is handled within the context of church. I want to see if your views have evolved at all, or if we kind of arrive at the same conclusion a year later.
Yeah, I mean, the church is a broad, it's a broad term that the reason we chose,
Absolutely.
The reason we choose that term is because I think it's a healthier conversation to use the term the church rather than going like, this is how Christians have screwed up, or like, this is how Baptists have, you know what I mean? Because we're not talking about anyone screwing up or making mistakes. We're just talking about people who are probably trying their best, who we just both agree maybe could be better. And I could be better. What I saw happen in Pennsylvania blew my mind, and it is what I will say now. A kid came to a youth pastor and said, I have been self-harming. I've been slitting my legs where nobody can see up by my thighs, and I'm sick of it, but I don't know what to do because it's the only way that I can feel like I'm escaping these negative feelings. And the youth pastor said something that gave me the chills because of how beautiful it was. He said, I don't know the right answer. I can tell you that God loves you, and he doesn't want you to hurt yourself, and I love you. And even if you don't believe in God, I hope you know that I love you. And I don't know the answer, and I don't know how to free you from this. But if you are willing to stick around for 20 minutes, I will get on the phone with a professional who is outside of the faith, and I will let them talk to you from a medical standpoint, and let's see if they have a solution that is more intelligent and medically driven than my own. But if you're not comfortable with that and you want me to go with you to the doctor, I will stand by your side. If you need somebody to talk to your parents because you're not ready to, I will do that for you. And because you are underage, if you don't want me to tell your parents, I think it would be best that you tell your high school counselor or some adult who can help keep you accountable in a way where you can live a longer and happier life. And I heard him say that, and I said, that is the answer that I want to share.
Well, and that's the answer that you and I said needed to come out that we weren't hearing last year.
Yeah, because what he said was, I'm going to handle the spiritual side. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to partner with you. I'm going to be your friend through this. But I am not going to stop there. I'm going to take you to a doctor, a secular doctor, who's dedicated his life studies and his life work to helping people like you. We're not going to pray. We're not going to pray the pain away. We are going to use the resources that God gave us, or the resources the world gave us if you're not a Christian, and we are going to get medical help because it's real. It is real. And I think a lot of churches that I have played in, I can only speak to the churches I've experienced, but I can say 80% of the churches I've preached at or performed at really do believe that depression is either A, a phase, or B, somebody trying to seek attention. And obviously, both of those things are real, but those are 100% the exception. Those are not the norm. The norm is most people who are depressed don't know why, and they hate it, but they're trapped. Dude, the best thing I ever heard about depression was somebody said, if everything you eat, have you heard the thing about everything you eat? Have you heard that metaphor?
I haven't.
Okay, dude. I hope this resonates with you and whoever's listening to this. They said if everything you eat tastes like rubber, and no matter how much seasoning you put on it, the seasoning tastes like rubber. And no matter how much you do, everything you eat tastes like rubber. People telling you, well, why don't you try Tapatio sauce, or why don't you try marinara, why don't you try ranch, isn't going to fix the problem because you already know it's going to taste like rubber. And that's how depression works, where if you know that everything you do is going to be followed by this dark cloud over your head, people saying, well, why don't we pray? Why don't we go outside? You already know it's just going to feel like a dark cloud. So how are they?
Sure.
How to help?
I lost you first.
I don't understand. Because I don't understand your depression because everyone's different. But I'm going to love you through it. And if you have any solutions, let me be your partner in making your goals and your dreams become a reality. Let me partner with you in your goals. Because that's what people need, is a partner in their dreams. That is why selflessness is so beautiful, man. And I think people with depression, and I'm speaking off of my own experiences. If somebody's had a completely different experience, I am not negating yours. I'm not a medical professional. I have no authority in the field. So all I can base this off of is what I have seen with my own eyes. And I'm not comfortable speaking beyond what I've seen with my own eyes. But what I've seen with my own eyes is if you go to somebody and say, maybe I don't have the solution, but my job is not to fix you or to fix the problem. My job is to be a partner in your dreams and your goals so you are not alone in this problem. And I don't know what will fix it, but I am here every step of the way. Because, dude, like, if my house is on fire and my neighbor comes over and I say, call the fire department, we need to put this fire out. And my neighbor says, you know what, instead of calling the fire department, let me go grab my garden hose and let me fix this myself. I would say, no, call the fire department. Because you can't put out a house fire with your garden hose. And the same way it was like, if a kid or an adult is not ready to talk to a therapist or not ready to talk to a medical professional, what I would hope to do is say, you know what, Luke, you're not ready to talk to a therapist. Why don't you write down how you feel? You and I will go to a therapist. I will read that letter to the therapist, and I will start the conversation for you using only your words, and I will not offer any of my own commentary at all. I will only represent your words that you are able to articulate and think through and erase and redo and write until you feel confident that is how you truly feel. And I will be your partner. I will express those only on your behalf. And if that doesn't work, I will go with you to the next therapist. And if I have to give up 8 hours of my week to do that, that's fine, because those 8 hours I was going to be watching Stranger Things, and Stranger Things can wait a week. That I think is in my experience with depression, and I am a suicide survivor, in my very unique expression, that's what my parents did. My mom and my grandma. My dad basically said, Kim, I don't know what you're going through, but I trust that you want to be better. And so I'm going to trust that the decisions you make are for you to get better. That's all I needed to hear. That's it. That's all I needed to hear. To know that, like, when things get hard, I can turn to my dad. And then my mom and my grandma, while my dad worked hard to provide for my family, my mom and my grandma drove me up and down California until I found a homeopathic specialist that I fell in love with. I got put on homeopathic remedies, and they brought me to a place where I was able to work through my anxiety and my depression because my head was clear enough to face it. Not everyone has parents who can do that. If you walk into a church, if you walk into an honest church based off the recommendation of someone you trust, there will be someone at that church who will help you. I would probably not recommend walking into a random church you know nothing about, because you do need a partner, you need trust, and I think trust starts with comfort. But I just think that, like, the problem is people say, hey, you're not fun to be around when you're depressed, and if you won't let me fix it, then I don't want to be a part of it. Or it's like, well, dude, again, you don't go to somebody and say, I think I said this to you in McDonald's. You wouldn't go to somebody and say, hey, man, you have pneumonia, and if you're not going to let me cure your pneumonia, then your pneumonia is bumming me out, and I don't want to be your friend anymore. Ever since you got pneumonia, you just sit in bed all day. You've changed.
Yeah.
You don't even want to watch It with me anymore because of your pneumonia. Your pneumonia has made you a bad, No, what you would do is say, I don't know how to fix your pneumonia, so instead of going and seeing It this weekend, I am going to bring my laptop over, and you and I are going to sit in your hospital bed, and we're going to watch Stranger Things together. And if halfway through an episode you're overwhelmed with my presence and you want me to wait in your living room for a couple hours while you calm down and spend time alone, I will honor that, because your house is on fire right now, and all the other houses can wait because yours is the one on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what needs to be done. Man. People going, my house is important, Luke's house is important, Deborah's house is important, Dave's house is important, but right now Michael's house is on fire. So I need to go to Deborah, Luke, and everybody else and say, hey, guys, you might not see enough of me this week, because right now I'm going to put time into the house that's on fire. I'm not going to try to put the fire out, but I am going to do whatever I can to partner with the guy who needs the help to put the fire out. And everybody else's house is not on fire, so I can ignore those things. Stranger Things will still be there.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of value in someone like you who, is listened to and respected on a much larger level than me. But I think it's there's also some importance in someone like me coming out and saying these things and saying that, we personally have struggled with it. I think there's do I watch what?
Do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I don't. You're not the first person who has asked me that, though.
You need to watch it. You need to, I always, know how people are always like, dude, if you want to open your mind to the absurdities of life, if you want to open your mind to what's really going on, you got to smoke weed. I always tell people, you just need to watch Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm to see how absurd life truly is. But season 9 just came out. It's the first season in 5 years. There's an episode, I believe it's called, I think it's episode 3. It's called The Disturbance in the Kitchen. And Elizabeth Banks plays a caricature of herself, kind of like an idiotic version of herself. I kind of playing into the dumb type. And Elizabeth Banks says something so funny. The character Susan Green, her little sister goes missing because she's part of the Big Sister, Little Sister program.
Yeah.
And she's letting a 15-year-old girl live at her house. And the 15-year-old girl goes missing. And Susan Green is crying and having a meltdown. And Elizabeth Banks goes, "Oh, I know how you feel. My cat ran away." And to me, that was like, literally, to me, I was like, that's so funny. Because that's how depression works. Somebody goes, "I haven't eaten in 4 days. I don't know if life is worth living." Dude, I know how that feels, man. No, you don't need to say that. What you should say is, "I don't know how that feels. But if you want to explain it to me, I'm here to listen."
Yeah.
And if you don't want to explain to me, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to trust that you're just not ready to talk about it, and I'm still going to stand by your side. But, dude, when she said that I deposit, because that's, like, literally how mental health works. So it's like, dude, yeah, man, like, I've been dealing with this seasonal affective disorder. I'm not able to go outside. I'm not able to look people in the eyes. Food tastes bad. Oh, I know how it feels, dude. I got super depressed when Susan broke up with me. Like, no, you don't. You don't know. When somebody's not producing serotonin and they're supplementing it with dopamine, your breakup is not the same.
I think
you being
too.
depressed. Or the best one I ever heard, dude. This is the best one I ever heard. When somebody compares it to a TV show like, "Oh yeah, dude, that's how Sheldon felt when Leonard ran away in Big Bang Theory." You know what I mean? Like, when they try to, they're so desperate to relate. It's like, dude, you don't need to relate. You just need to be a partner in their solution. All they need to know is that even though they're depressed, even though they have anxiety, and when I say they, I'm talking about me and when I deal with this stuff. I'm not talking about anybody but myself and my own experience. All I needed to hear was somebody say, "Cam, you have big dreams and big goals in life, and this depression is overcoming you, and no matter how big it gets, I am going to be a partner in your dreams coming true." And I found that in my parents. I found it in my girlfriend, Steph. I found it in my writing partner, Peter. I found that in a friend that I consciously collaborate with a year ago named Jesse. I found that in I found that in so many amazing people. And all of those people I assumed, other than Steph, because I wasn't dating at the time, but there was a time where I assumed my parents could never understand me and hated me, and they were me. And I need to stop expecting them to understand me. And I need to just trust that even if they don't understand me, they still love me. The second I accepted that, I realized they're not my enemies. They are the most vital partners I have in this.
And I love the way that you're putting, like you're expressing these people as partners and as being a partner in the solution, because I think it's important that people understand that turning to these people does not mean that you're turning to them because they have the answer. It doesn't mean that you're turning to them because, they necessarily have been through it. It just means that they not just want to understand you, but they're willing to understand you and they're trying to.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
I just love how you're saying like a partner in this, because I way too often hear, and something that I'm sure that you went through too is like people didn't want me to just listen. People wanted me to give them the solution. They wanted me to tell them what the solution is.
Well, it's like when your mom calls and asks you to fix the internet, it's not because you're an expert. It's not because you're an IT guy. It's because you know more about it than she does. And if you're going to fix it, if you go over to help your mom fix the internet, and instead of fixing it, you just explain to her how she set it up wrong, you're not helping anything. Your job is not to explain to her the big picture and how she handled it wrong. Your job is just to get the internet working. And, if someone's depressed and they just need someone to go out to lunch with them one day, your job is not to sit down and go over why their depression is ruining everyone's life and how they would. All your job is is to take them to a Quiznos and shut up.
Yeah.
And you will feel better at the end of the conversation when you're just sitting with your friend and they finally laugh at one of your jokes and you go, cool. Taking them out to Quiznos brought a little bit of joy. You know, and like,
Yeah.
Dude, my perspective, the only authority I have off this is because I treated people like garbage for a long time. I went through a traumatic experience with someone that scarred me, and instead of going home and facing it, I just continued to tour, continued to build myself, and I lost my sense of self, I lost my sense of honesty, and I hurt a lot of people. So the reason I can say this with confidence isn't because I'm some guru. It's because I burned a lot of bridges and hurt a lot of great people because I didn't know any better and because I was being selfish. Now that I've overcome that, the only reason I have any empathy is because I was an idiot.
Yeah.
So I hope people aren't like, wow, Cam is this like mystical being who found answers. I'm an idiot. I'm only sharing what I learned from being an idiot.
That's how we all learn, man.
Yeah, and I think more.
That is how we all learn.
Like we said earlier, it's okay to be a hypocrite if that's part of your process. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, the only way to learn is to be wrong, and it's okay to be wrong as long as you admit it. And, like, I wouldn't admit it before. I would just, because I was in a position of authority, every time I was wrong, I would just cover it up by doing something right instead of saying, hey, guys, I was wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like whenever you, like, break a vase in your house so you draw your mom a picture. Drawing her a picture doesn't fix the vase. The
Right.
vase is still broken, and she's still going to mourn over her beautiful vase being broken. And you can't get upset that she's still sad because you didn't fix the vase. And it's the same way, like, I would hurt someone. Yeah, but here's the free meal. And I realize, that free meal doesn't fix the fact that, like, I took advantage of them. You know what I mean? And so that's where my empathy comes from, is from being a giant idiot for most of my life and realizing that's no way to live. And now I can come out on the other side with people like Peter and Steph, who, whenever I do get cocky or do get manipulative or get stuck in my own head, they can look at me like, Cam, you're doing it again. And I know in an instant that all they care about is me being the best person I can be, and they're doing that out of love, not out of, like, trying to level me. Where in the past, if someone called me out on something, I thought it was them maniacally trying to overcome me, not them trying to be a friend and make me a better person.
Yeah.
And depression does that.
Yeah, man.
Depression convinces you that people are your enemy because you're just so afraid of accepting help, because you're so afraid of having to improve, because improvement is hard and scary.
Yeah, man. You believe the worst of everything when you're depressed. You think that things just keep getting worse, you know? If a friend goes out with one of your other friends and you're not with them, you think that they don't like you anymore or something. You don't realize it's just because they live next door to each other or something. You know what I mean? Like you assume the worst of everything because that's just what it does to you. But I think that the big picture that you and I are trying to get across with, Hotel Book and Homestead is that all of these things that you and I are talking about, like, we're not in the minority to feel these things. We're not weird, and we're not exclusive, and we're not saying that we feel it because we think it's gonna get us views on YouTube or something. Like, we're saying it because it's important to us, and we're saying it because at least I believe that depression is a human experience and that every person experiences at some point within their life. So I just want to break the stigma, man.
We're not going to get to a point where it's cured. We can only treat it. And so, I don't know. People need to be, dude, there's probably moments in this conversation where I'm contradicting myself. And I hope if that did happen, people understand that's not because I'm wishy-washy. It's not because of some malicious intentions I have. I'm just trying to be a human about this. And humans are not perfect. And I don't want to give people answers. I want to ask questions where people will go, oh, okay, Cam brought up some points. Maybe I'll look into that. I want this conversation to be the start of conversations. I don't want people to listen to this and be like, now all my questions are answered. Because, dude, I am not a therapist. I am not a guru. I am no longer even in ministry, really, right now. I desperate. And I don't want people listening to think that I think I have the answers. All I have is experiences. And that's what everyone else has. And if other people would get on Google Voice conversations and post them on YouTube and be willing to be vulnerable and wrong and be willing to call each other out, I think this world would be a happier, better place. But it only starts if people go like, it's easy for us to do it because we have fans. So our fans are going to support us. But people without fans don't have that privilege. And I hope those people realize there are people out there who are going to listen and going to respect the fact that you're being vulnerable. And there's going to be people on YouTube who make fun of you and tell you to kill yourself, and ignore those people because those people are not real people. Those are personas they live through behind a screen.
Absolutely.
And like
Absolutely,
the first step to joy is delete your Facebook and stay off YouTube comments, because those are not real people. Those are personas people have created where there's no eye contact, no body language, and definitely no empathy. It has given people a platform where they can share their opinions before they have even had enough time to think through their opinions or form actual opinions. And it is toxic and is dangerous for people who are lost. And depression creates a sense of worthlessness and a sense of loss, feeling lost. And I want people to know, it is not healthy to combat on the internet, because you cannot change people. You can only piss them off and reinforce their point. If somebody feels attacked, all you're going to do is make them put their guard up and believe their side even stronger. And that's not going to help anybody, especially your soul. You need to get your soul as clean as you can. And I think that starts with saying, I'm not going to have a dialogue until there's empathy. And like, unfortunately, like right now, we don't have eye contact, and that's not always available. But what we do have is I can hear the tone in your voice. And if you say, Cam, I'm tired, there's a huge difference between Cam, I am tired, versus Cam, I am tired. Same words, very different meaning. One of them is knock it off, I'm tired. The other is, man, I'm exhausted. This has been a long day. And without that vocal tone, context gets lost. And context is your friend, because context is the easiest way to remember where you were when you felt a certain way. And you can decide if those feelings were valid or irrational based off the context of what happened when those happened. And once you lose context, you start taking irrational thoughts and deciding they are rational, and then you act on irrational thoughts, and that's how you hurt yourself. Or at least, like, when I say you, I'm talking about me. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the past me. I'm not talking truth in anyone but myself. But like, without context, you can honor your past thoughts and say, yeah, that was anxiety. It was a lack of serotonin. It was dopamine. It was a lack of endorphins speaking on my behalf, and me honoring those because I lost the context of when and where I said those things.
Yeah.
And Facebook has no context, and YouTube has no context, and they're not your friend.
They are not. They are not your friend, which...
I don't even have a password to the Hotel Book Facebook. We use it for one thing, and that's to announce that things are available. And that's because that's part of my job. I hired Nick Moore to handle that. I can legitimately say that I don't have the password to my YouTube or my Facebook, and I don't want the password because I don't want to have the temptation of combating the haters. And I hire people to deal with my social media so I don't have to. So I can put my money where my mouth is and enjoy the real world. And I hope more people do that. And I'm not saying that to be like, look at me. I'm saying I screwed up. I hurt a lot of people. And now I'm trying to find ways to make it better. And getting off of those platforms is what worked for me. And maybe it's not for everyone. Maybe some people need those platforms to connect with friends and family. I don't. I was lucky in that. And so I got off of them. And maybe it'll work for you. Try it. You know?
Yeah. Awesome, man. All right. One last quick topic, and then we'll wrap up so we don't make people listen for too long. This has been a fun conversation. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for making time for this, man.
Dude, I love this. This is one of my favorite conferences I've ever had, and I love your letters project, and I hope people follow that closely, because I like that you're not releasing it on a schedule. I like that it's just like you're literally moving with the events of life. That's awesome. Never put it on a schedule. Let it be loose.
We know. Yeah, dude. So for people, just real quick, I'll do my stupid little plug for people that don't know like what Homestead is. But as far as the Letters Project, Homestead, we're a melodic hardcore band from New England. But we're we put out a song called A with the subtitle being Take Me, and basically it's the first track of our Letters project, which is just a real time story that shows someone struggling with mental health. A is the beginning of that story, and B, part of why you and I are talking, B, the next song comes out on November 17th. And yeah, man, it's coming, and I'm not going to go too far into it, but I'll just say that the premise of B is the story of my conversation with God during my suicide attempt. So It's a very personal and close song to me, and I just wanted to release it because I hope that it really speaks to someone. After that, man, we're you were mentioning Danny earlier. For our people who are listening who don't know Danny, Danny sings in a band called Conveyor. They just did a record with Greg Thomas, and we're in the studio now actually doing a record with Greg Thomas. So he did the Conveyor record. He was in Shai Hulud and Misery Signals. He's in this band called End now. So super awesome. Love him. So yeah, we're super busy. And so for A and B coming out at the end of the year, we'll be releasing a super limited edition 7-inch of A and B. So those will sell out in like a day once we release them. So I guess grab it and listen to B when it comes out. So cool. What's next for Hotel Books?
Nothing. I mean, we're just hanging out, dude. We're trying to tour with Gatherers again at some point. We haven't really tackled that yet, but that's like the goal is to tour with Gatherers again before we wrap up.
You'll make Homestead that opener, you know?
Dude, that would be awesome.
That would be sick. That would be so sick.
We just take out two. Dude, it's so funny. All of our favorite bands and the bands on tour, they're always on the East Coast. Yeah, dude, we're talking about doing something with Gatherers. I produced a film with
cool.
We had a release date in sight, and then the company that was interested in releasing it backed out, so we're back to the pitching phase.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it's a comedy film. It's an absurdist comedy, very much about this conversation. It's about a kid who's wants to become a famous YouTuber, but doesn't really have any talent. He just thinks that, like, having a video camera and a lot of passion is enough to be famous. And
sure.
I play the main character, and he's just this pompous jerk who just thinks that he deserves fame simply because he has a lot of passion and drive.
Sure.
And he's just a real greasy guy, and it's absurdist comedy, and that's all I can really say about it. And then I'm launching a new, the reason Hotel Books is not busy is because I'm launching a new one-man show. And
cool.
The last one from Porterville with Love, I did not take on the road as much as I should have. I workshopped it for a few shows in LA and did some stand-up comedy with it. And I should have workshopped it more. I think it could have been better done. This one, I'm going to record the same way. No
Sweet.
live audience, just with one take. And it's going to be at almost-happy.bandcamp.com. The first one is available to purchase. You can stream it for free. And the second one does not have a title yet, but it's going to be really cool, I hope.
Awesome.
And
love it. My hopefully it'll what?
I said hopefully it'll pay my bills so I can do more exciting things with Hotel Book.
You know, man, paying bills is always a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. My last quick funny question for you, which we touched briefly, but I was just going to say, should the people listening expect some Hotel Books Homestead teamwork stuff coming up?
Yeah, wait, say that again. Cut out.
I said, my last funny question for you, which we just jokingly touched on a second ago, was should the people listening expect some Homestead Hotel Books stuff in the future?
Oh yeah, dude.
Cool.
I mean,
cool.
I think, I think it would be cool to do a song together for one of our records. I mean, I just put out a record, so I guess I can't do that, but I could be on your record, and it'd be really awesome if we could play shows, like do a tour together. I mean, I don't really pick who I tour with as much as I wish I could, but dude, we got to do something. We got to make it happen. And I love it.
For sure.
Yeah. I love that you and I are good at putting each other on the spot with that stuff because it's the only way that things actually happen. Like, I've had so many bands that I want to do stuff with, but then they never put me on, they never remind me. And, like, when I'm on the road 100, 200 days out of the year, it's hard to, it's hard to remember every single exciting project that I want to be a part of without, it being in writing. So, yeah, I mean, now that we have this dialogue started, I think that, like, it's time that the rest of the world forces us to do it. I want to do something, for sure. I would love to do something with Gatherers. I would love to do more with Hearts Like Lions. I want to do more with Flat Sound.
All awesome bands.
I want to do more with Sleepwave. I really want to do more with I Prevail, but that's just because I want to steal their amazing fan base. that's just me being selfish.
Hey man, who wouldn't want that?
Gatherers, Sleepwave, Funeral Portrait. We've just met some of these bands that just really inspire us, and I want to do more with them. So maybe we got to just do a big tour or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Cool, man. All right. Well, I'm going to hit 4. So thank you so much, man. And I appreciate it. Hope people like this.
Yeah, dude. I hope that, people realize, we've been blessed to be able to have a very privileged conversation about things that are really beautiful to us. And I hope people realize this is all coming from a place of us just wanting to, take our personal conversation and make it public just to hopefully inspire more conversation.
Yeah. And for me, I know that you're a crazy busy Cam, but for me, I'm pretty open. If anybody wants to, talk with me, obviously not in a public setting, but I want to have more conversations like this with people and just hear their story. So, I mean, if anybody's listening to this and wants to talk, message, one of the Homestead socials and we'll definitely talk.
Yeah, dude. And you and I just got to do more stuff like this together because it's fun. And I
absolutely.
I assure you, you are busier than me, dude. I do not. I just write for a living, so my life is pretty like when you were like, when can we do this, Cam? And I was like, whenever you call me, because I just drive all day and I write all day. My life's I've gotten my life set up in a place where my creative partner is my beautiful girlfriend, Steph Rios, who you should go follow on Instagram because she's a very inspiring photographer. And then my writing partner is a guy named Peter Paul, who is a more behind-the-scenes guy. He writes pretty much everything that I write. He's been a part of. He's a genius. He's a real vanilla guy, and I love that. I'm a wild card who puts myself in harm's way just out of pure morbid curiosity. He is a very thoughtful, careful person who values human life a little more than I do. So him and I have been able to create some really awesome things that would have probably been terrible if I didn't have him making them with me. So go follow him. If you go to I'mAlmostHappyHere.com, you can check out the stuff him and I make together. And then if you go to Steph Rios, I think it's Steph with 2 H's .Rios on Instagram, or if you go to Cam Smithogram and I tag her and everything, and she's just super cute. So you can just look at pictures of a real cute girl because my girlfriend's cute.
So is mine, man.
Hell yeah.
So is mine. Cool. Awesome, man. All right.
Tell me if this is a funny joke before we go, because I want comments.
Tell you a funny joke?
Okay, tell me if this is funny. Okay, you know how people, say hell yeah?
Yeah.
I say it a lot. I think it's a funny phrase. I try not to say it in public because some people think of it as cussing. This kid came up to me and he was just like, hell yeah, man. And I, for whatever reason, I was like, hey man, I would prefer heaven yeah. And he was,
dude,
he was deeply burdened. Like, oh my gosh, I just offended Cam Smith. And the reason I bring this up is because he walked away, and I don't know the kid's name. I met him coincidentally, I met him in Denver, which is the town I'm in right now. A kid from Denver. I was kidding. There's nothing wrong with saying hell yeah. That's a funny phrase. You did not offend me. But isn't that a funny joke? I think that's hilarious. Just be like, actually, if you could say heaven yeah, because I'm a Christian.
Dude, that's like a bad dad joke. Like a bad one.
It's like a church camp joke. Like I had
yeah.
this youth leader. He wasn't a youth pastor, but a youth leader. He always say hell yeah, and that's one of those weird phrases where people are like, is that cussing? I don't know. And then he would always say hell yeah, and people would be like, I really would prefer you not say the word hell. And it was just to be like,
in third grade, I got in trouble for saying holy crap. So they got pulled aside, and they said crap is not holy, and I said okay. So I get it. It is one of those weird phrases.
It's those ones where it's like, I love it, dude. I think that like the youth group sense of humor is awesome. Like my favorite thing in the world. My favorite thing in the world is like bad Christian. Okay, dude, this is the story I'm going to end it on. We've had these really serious, dark conversations. I'm going to end it on something silly. Is that okay with you?
Do it.
I promise we'll be done.
I'm okay with it.
Nick Lopez. He is the former guitarist of Capsize. Now he's pursuing education.
Yep.
But,
I know Nick.
Okay, hilarious human. I used to live with Nick in Chula Vista, California. I got kicked out of my apartment because I was touring too much. And Nick literally was like, I was going to a Christian university, and Nick is the opposite of a Christian in the sense of ideology, not like his lifestyle choices. But he's just this brilliant musician. And Nick's like, just come live with me. And I was like, you serious? And I lived with Nick. My RA when I was a freshman in college was this guy named, I'll just say his name because he's a loving guy and I love him. His name was Curtis. And he showed me this website, and I want everyone to know about this website called ChristianBumperStickers.com. It's a website where you can give them your address and tell them why you need bumper stickers, and they send you a bunch of Christian bumper stickers. And some of them are super right-wing in a way that I don't think any Republican could get behind. Like, extremely right-wing. Like, I'm the Christian liberal media warned you about. Or, like, the reason they took prayer out of school is so we could hear the gunshots.
Oh, wow.
Like just the most offensive. And I use the word right wing not to say Republican. I'm not putting down Republicans. I'm saying like the people who think that you cannot be a liberal and also be a Christian. You know what I mean? And that that was what we saw. So Nick and I, being the idiots we are, we message them and say, hey, we're going to a Christian music event tomorrow at Point Loma College, University, which is the college I went to. And we feel like a lot of our friends have fallen into the lies of the liberal media. So if you could send us some bumper stickers to remind them that the liberal lifestyle is a lie, it would mean a lot to us. So we got this company to overnight us like 200 to 300 incredibly stupid Christian bumper stickers. And for the next 3 years, everything we owned had these ridiculous Christian bumper stickers. Like literally everything that Nick Lopez and I owned for the next 3 years just had these ridiculous Christian bumper stickers on them. And I hope Nick's okay with me saying it short, because to me it's one of my fondest memories of Nick. But we made this video of his corgi, and we were playing the song Jesus is a Friend of Mine while just dropping like confetti style, like just dropping a bunch of Christian bumper stickers on top of his corgi while his corgi is bobbing his head to Jesus is a friend of mine. And it just became this thing where this very outspoken atheist who he has Facebook posts about atheism, and then this very outspoken Christian. And the one thing we could bond on is that the cheesy Christian bumper stickers are awesome.
Well, that's awesome.
It was just so funny. Like one of them was like premarital sex puts you in the used car lot, or like the party's in heaven, or I'm sorry, there will be no party in hell. It's canceled due to fire. Like just these things
Ridiculous.
that only a middle-aged white Christian in Wisconsin could think of. And yes, I just stereotyped a human being, but I'm heightening it for the sake of comedy, But like,
that's awesome, man.
It's one of my fondest memories of living in San Diego. Just hundreds, dude. They sent us like this UPS envelope of just Christian bumper stickers that we had so much fun just sitting and reading them because they were just so cheesy and dumb. And also as a Christian, I think that like being self-aware of the quirkiness of Christianity only makes Christianity more fun.
Oh, for sure.
Of just acknowledging the like, ain't no high like the most high, like those generic Christian phrases that are just so funny. And like some people, it really helps them, and it's a good fun reminder of Jesus' love. And for others, it's just a way to like laugh at ourselves and enjoy the fact that like we believe God is good and we can laugh at ourselves because Jesus is bigger than that,
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
I just wanted to end on that because I know that things got a little heavy-handed there, and that was just a fun story that I never get to share that I really love.
And I love hearing it. Capsize was the first band that like made Homestead want to really, really write music. Like cool. That was like mine and our guitarist, like when we were at that point in our life, like that was the big band. So that's just funny. That's funny to hear that about him, since that was he was such a big influence for us. So
yeah, and as
awesome,
a friend,
man.
he's a huge influence for me. I mean, he's been like I said, dude. One day I called him and said, "Hey, man, if you know anybody who's looking for a roommate, I'll do whatever." And then he just goes, dude, just literally, he goes, "Come over tonight." Like that day, he opened his home to me and said, "Stay as long as you need."
Yeah, that's more Christian than what a lot of Christians would give you back, I'm sure.
I make fun of him. I used to be like, man, I'm just glad that you're living out what the scriptures call us to be.
Yeah.
But, dude, we just hit 2 hours, and this was 2 hours that I really needed. And I hope that, like, people enjoy hearing our private conversation made public. Because I personally
hope so.
benefited from it. My soul points are through the roof. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man.